Howdy everyone, this is Tricia and welcome to my channel. Today I have an easy sew project. These are some Mexican inspired Christmas ornaments. They are made with fabric and they're super easy to make. If you want to see how I put them together, keep on watching. Alright, so let's get started. For my fabric ornaments, I obviously need some fabric. So here I've got some choices of fabrics. What fabrics I'm going to use, I don't know exactly yet, but I've got all of these to choose from. Alright, so to cut out the shapes, I could just draw them on a piece of paper, but since I was there at Walmart, I looked over where their stencils, and then I looked over where their wood cutouts were. I was going to get stencils, but I felt like they were a little too small, so I went for these. I've got a heart, I've got a circle, and I've got a little star, so that I can use these to cut out my fabrics. I also have a choice of embroidery flosses here, very colorful. Went to Hobby Lobby and I grabbed this twine. It's in a very natural color. You could use something like that or use a ribbon. I'm going to be using this to hang our ornaments, so you can use whatever you want to use. All right. I may also use some beads in this, which I don't have here in front of me, but if I decide to use those, I'll bring those out. All right, so let's get to crafting. Here I have some craft paper because I've decided that I'm going to trace out my shapes or just freehand draw them on paper because I want to cut out the pattern and have it on paper. So if I decide to use these little wood cutouts, I can, but at least I have the pattern in paper ready to use for another project if I want to do that as well. Okay, so let's start out by just tracing our star. Okay, so I've got my star. You can't really see it on the paper here, but I've got that already drawn out. I am going to go ahead and trace around the circle and the heart as well. I'm actually going to do two circles because I want to do a moon shape from one of these circles. Okay, I am darkening one of my circles so that maybe you can see it. I don't need to darken it all the way around. I'm just going to darken as far as I think a moon shape will come out of this. Now, when I do the width here for my moon, I don't want to make it too small because, again, I'm going to be sewing on the edges, so that's going to take away from some of the width. So when you make your shapes, make them bigger. That's why I chose these sizes, because they're bigger than what I want my ornament to end up being. Because once I sew into it, it's going to make it a little bit smaller. And then once I fill it with some fiber fill, oh my gosh, I'm polyfill. I didn't show you that. I also need some polyfill, or you can use cotton balls, tissue paper, whatever you want to stuff your little ornaments with. You're going to need that as well. Okay, so as I was saying, your shape will shrink once you get it all filled in and sewn and such. So you want to make sure you make these a little bit wider. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a half circle shape right here and then meet up with where I decided to finish drawing these edges around here. I'm going to make it a little bit pointy, not too much. Okay, so now that I've got my moon shape done, I'll go ahead and cut out all these shapes. So now I have 4 of them. All right, so I've cut out my 4 shapes. Got a nice little star right here. Paper's kind of curling up a little bit, but that's okay. And then I've got my heart here. All right. Okay, so my fabric is already pretty much folded, and it's pretty much the size that I need. And I'm going to need to cut out 2 for each ornament. So I'm going to use my moon shape first. And I need to pin down my paper here, my craft paper, my little pattern that I've made myself. Probably would like to iron this fabric before you get started so that you make sure you get rid of those little wrinkles. I've got it all pinned on a little piece here, and I'll go ahead and start cutting around, following my pattern. And I'm going to repeat that for my other paper shapes here on a different fabric, just so that all my little ornaments will be different. And I'll just kind of just randomly pick whatever. But do it the same way, pin it down, and then just cut around your shape. right, so because I had 7 fabrics, I've cut out 7 shapes. So I've cut out 2 of the stars, 2 of the hearts, 2 of the moons, and 1 of the circle. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of my cut out pieces here. This is the same fabric, by the way. It just had different little square designs on the pattern of the fabric. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just pin these 2 together. Now I'm going to sew all the way around, and I'm going to leave about a 2-inch opening, or 1.5 inch. I think 1.5 inch might be good enough. So I'll just pin so that I know to start here and go around and come back. And I'll probably do like a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to do the same thing for all of them. And I think the easiest place on my moon for me to do that little opening is maybe somewhere on the bottom down here. So I'll mark my little opening, and then I'll just pin the rest of it just so that it doesn't move on me. So I'll do that with all of them. Make sure you put all your right sides together. Okay, so before I start sewing this, I decided that I want the embroidery thread. I want to make like a little tassel hanging down. And I've already gone ahead and I've made something here. I will show you in the next step how I put this together. It's super easy. If you know how to make a better tassel than I do, go for it and do that. Okay, so because I want this to come out at the bottom point here, I'm going to push it in here, and then I'm going to sew over this bit here because I made a knot there, and I want the knot to be on the inside. So I want to make sure that I don't sew the knot, but I sew around it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start at this point right here where I decided my opening would be back here. Now the light on my sewing machine is not working, so I'm using it without the light, but it is on, as you can hear. Okay, I'm going to the little corner there, and then I'll just lift my foot. Make sure my embroidery floss is clear from where I'm going to be sewing, and then just continue on. Okay, when I get here, I want to make sure that all this embroidery floss is tucked all the way in. So I'm going to remove this pin from here. It's tucked all the way in there, so it's not anywhere near where I'm going to be sewing. So just make sure it's tucked all the way in there. Stop there, turn it around, lift and turn. Okay, here's the pin where I want it to then end so that I keep that opening. Alright, I can remove those pins now. And I can remove this off the sewing machine, trim off any threads. Okay, so before I turn it over, I want to go to wherever there's any little corners or little rounded areas. I'm actually done a very small stitch here, or not stitch, but the allowance is the seam. It's actually very small. I was going to go in a 1/4 inch, but because of that little knot on the little tassel that I've made, it's going to be very difficult. Okay, so right here where it goes into a point, I'm just going to trim that off so I don't have all that bulk, especially with all that thread from the embroidery floss. And just continue on. And right here where it's an opening, I'm not going to do any little cuts in. This helps to turn the fabric in nicely. So you want to do those little cuts. If you happen to cut in too much and you've cut the seam, the thread that you've made, just make another little seam. And then we're going to go ahead and turn this over. And if it gets all wrinkled, we're going to iron it. Okay. All right. Look at that. It's got the little tassel hanging out the side. Here's my little opening, which will get folded in. The little edges will get folded in, and then I'll sew those, and I probably just use my sewing machine. If not, I'll do it by hand. But you just want to make sure that you've pushed out all the fabric so you get that nice little shape with a little tassel hanging off here. If the tassel's too long, trim it. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fill this one in and sew that closed so that I can go ahead and do all my other shapes. Alright, so I've got some fiber fill right here, and I'm just going to start stuffing it. I've gone ahead and I've put thread on a hand sewing needle here, made a little knot so I can go ahead and close that with the by hand instead of trying to coax it through the sewing machine. Alright, now I can go ahead and sew it. I'm going to put my needle on the inside so that I can hide my little knot in there. And then just start sewing. Now if you want to grab thread that matches each of your little pieces of fabric, you know, whatever the dominant color, this one would be red, by all means do that. I'm just using a white thread. Okay, so I'm just going to continue sewing that shut. Alright, so now I've got my little shape. I've gone ahead and I've sewn shut the opening here. A nice little tight little stitch there. Alright, so quickly, how did I do the little tassel? I grabbed a bunch of these embroidery flosses, and I've cut some pieces, and they're about 12 inches in length. So I've cut off some of the blue one first, and let me go ahead and cut the next one. And just grab as many as you want to grab, depending on how many colors you bought, or if you just bought one, then just cut as many strings as you want for each one of your little tassels. They're very simple, nothing fancy, so there's nothing complicated about how to make these little tassels. Alright, let me cut them all, and then I'll just show you. I just made a quick knot. Alright, so now that I've got all my little colors that I wanted to use, let me see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. I've got 8. Yeah, I've got 8 little strings here, and they're about 12 inches long. So now I'm just going to fold them in half, and you can do any trimming you want to do to the bottom. It's okay. We're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to just make a little knot and make sure that a little bit, these little loops where it's folded in half, stick out of the top of the knot. So make it big like that, right? So you can get that in there and make sure that all those threads pass through, and then just kind of start pulling and pushing your knot upward. Make sure you leave that little slack there, because that's going to be sewn into in between the fabric there to get that little tassel in there. And that's it, just simple as that. And then, like I said, you can trim the ends if you wish. And even after you're done with your whole ornament, if you want, you could also unravel each of these little and make it a little bit shaggier if that's what you want. Look at that. Okay, so this is ready. I just gotta do 5 more and I will be done. Okay, so now we want to put a little string here to hang our little ornament. So I've got my twine here, and then I've got a wood bead here. I've chose this because it has a nice big hole that I can feed my twine through, and I want to feed it through twice. So you just want to make sure that whatever bead you use has a big enough hole, or you could just skip using a bead altogether. Okay, so here's my twine, and you just want to kind of cut off to make sure you have a nice crisp cut. And then what you'll do is just add a little bit of glue to the tip here, and then just kind of twirl it so you have a nice tight little edge there, so it'll feed nicely through the bead. You're going to pull it through quite a bit, give it some slack, and then we're going to push it through the same way it came out. We're going to push it through that same side, and as you push it through, kind of like twist it. I twist the bead also and push it till you have your little end come out the other side where you first fed it through, and then just pull. Okay, so then you want to have enough twine where you want it, you know, wherever you want to hang, you know, as much as you want of a loop here. And then you're going to make Make sure that the bead doesn't slide out of here. And it's got both ends here going through. Make a knot wherever you want, depending on how big you want that loop. Okay, and I'm just holding on to this here so that the bead doesn't slide off. And then I gotta feed this through there again. So I'm just holding it while I push down and tighten that knot. There we go. Just like that. Okay, so then I'm just gonna slide it over just a tiny bit. Add some glue here. Slide the bead over that, just like that. Okay, now that I've got, I can trim that off of the roll. So I've got this. So I'm just going to open them up like that. And then right in there, I'm going to pour some glue. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just trim the ends. I'm actually going to put a little bit of glue on those little tips and then just kind of roll them and pull off any excess glue just to keep those little threads together. And now I can go ahead and decide where exactly I'm going to place it, and then just add more of that hot glue to the bead and to the little ends there. And just press it down in there like that. We're going to let that dry and then we can hang it. So I'm just going to repeat that for the rest of my ornaments. All right, everyone, so here they are. They're all completed. I've made 7 little ornaments. They're so cute. I love them so very much. I love all the colors that I've used. This is a Mexican-inspired Christmas ornament with the heart shapes, the stars, especially the moon shape. I love this sort of a Talavera design on this round one. I feel like I want to make more with this fabric. I absolutely love them. Now I want to point out that it's very important that before you turn them over, to make those little snips I told you about, especially on curves that go inward, so that you get a nice curve, especially like these on the stars here. I forgot to do that on this one, and it has a kind of an odd kind of a pull, wants to close on me here. As a matter of fact, I had to poke in the little ends here on this particular moon because they were touching and it didn't look like a moon. It looks more like a letter C, and I'm okay with that. So there they are, all completed. Look at this beautiful red heart that I started off with, this purple star. But I have to say, this round one is my favorite. Now, these little strings here, you could start off by putting the folded edge here inside of there, like we did the bottom tassel, and sew it in there so that when you have the 2 ends at the out, when you turn it around, you have the 2 ends sticking out of the little rope. Then you can slide them in through the bead and then do a little knot, and then do a little knot up here to close it. So in case you don't want to hot glue it, because it could come off. So make sure you use a good glue that'll keep it all together. All right, there we go. I love them. I think they came out super cute. I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment down below and let me know what you think of these little ornaments. You can do them in any fabrics you want, embellish them some more, maybe put some little leaves here, some little berries, whatever you want to do to make them more Christmassy and more to your style. All right, thank you all so very much for watching. So I hope that you will hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the video, and make sure that then you choose notifications and you choose all so that you get notified as soon as I upload a video. Thank you again so much for watching and supporting my channel, and as always, enjoy.